जयपुर वाया कोटा।
कृपया ध्यान आपो अहमदाबाद
दिल्ली में आपका स्वागत।
Lucknow Junction.
ನಿಲ್ದಾಣದ ಕಡೆಗೆ ಹೊರಟಿರುವರೈ
Hyderabad को 50 एक्सप्रेस पॉलोबोटी स्टेशन नेताजी भवन कृपया ध्यान दो।
Yet another gripping affair at the IPL. You know, you talk about ups and downs, twists and turns, ebbs and flows. This match had it all. You know, a match that was fitting of a Saturday night thriller. Chasing 160, Punjab, took it until the very end, but eventually ended up winning by 2 wickets with only 3 balls to spare. Sikandar Raza scoring his maiden half century for Punjab, scoring 57 of 41 balls. And we have to talk about Shahrukh Khan, 23, a blistering 23 not out of 10 balls. And a great day, of course, with his fielding as well, taking 3 blinders. You're watching Cricbuzz Live. I'm Anubhav Jain. And joining me on the show, Joy Bhattacharjya. Polly, let's start with Sikandar Raza. I mean, 57. He's looked good in the red of Zimbabwe, looking good in the red of Punjab, but he must be gutted that he wasn't quite able to bring Punjab over the line.
Yeah, I would have been disappointed walking off, but the fact that they get over the line, he'll be happy now again.
Yeah.
But it was strange innings because it wasn't like he controlled it in many ways. There was quite a few living on the edge. You know that saying, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. Well, that's how his innings was. I mean, there was 4 or 5 times where it just got over the boundary rope and he got himself a maximum or just eluded someone trying to dive. But as far as someone stepping up in the middle there after that poor start, he's got to be happy that he's managed to contribute the way he did. So it's a big day for him. And the disappointment that the head in the hands has now turned into the absolute delight. So, he did his job and he'll be really happy with that.
And delight also about the fact that, there was this phase of 3 balls, that we saw 3 consecutive balls, where he kept hitting it to Yudhvir Singh, but it just missed him on all 3 occasions.
Must be realizing how fickle fate is. Comes in, gets 2 wickets early, looks like the man in town, bowls beautifully up front, and then those, he's basically, standing in the boundary. You get the first, and almost, sometimes you almost hypnotically feel the next one's also going to come.
Yeah.
And the second one, he made a good attempt. The third one, again, he would have crossed. It was just one of those days and really unfortunate. But that's it. 16 runs basically off 3 balls. And put the rest of the innings together, he scored less than a run a ball.
Yeah.
And that was his major acceleration. So for a long time, he looked as if he was struggling. He never really looked. Normally what happens is batsmen get their 10 balls, 15 balls in, hit a couple of 4s or 6s, and then they look as if they're in control. He never looked in control. And that's an interesting innings. And finally, when he got out, it almost seemed that if he got out, somebody like a Shahrukh could come in and perhaps things would change because a bigger hit is coming in from the other end.
Yeah, and you mentioned Shahrukh Khan. I think we have to talk about Shahrukh Khan making the headlines. 23 not out, 10 balls only, getting Punjab over the line and repaying the faith that Punjab has actually, shown in him.
Yeah, it's huge. Absolutely huge. For him to walk in, even the other night he walked in, and I think his first delivery hit out the ground. He walks in tonight, Mark Wood, last ball of the over, bang, back over his head.
6.
I mean, who would have predicted that? That was a real big surprise. But then he kind of went into his shell, didn't he? The one over from Bishnu was almost like he wasn't prepared to take any risk. But then in the final over, he had to do it, and he's pulled it off. So a good performance from him, and he definitely doesn't waste any balls. When he gets to the crease, he's looking to play. And that's exactly the tonic they needed at the back end there.
Yeah, I mean, brilliant display with the bat, right?
No, absolutely. I think Shahrukh has won a Vijay Hazare trophy again with Syed Mustaq Ali trophy with the last ball 6. He can hit the big ball and anything in the slot is hit. If you remember, he's gone for 10 crores. He's an expensive player. Last year, he didn't have the performance they wanted and they were looking at it and they were wondering whether, they should. And a lot of people were saying that, Punjab released a lot of players. But somehow he was retained. They retained faith in him. Because if you remember, last year, his Jitesh Sharma was actually finishing better than Shahrukh was. But here, Shahrukh comes to the party and he's done it twice now. And I think he's shown that he has that ability to be able to clear the field. And look, the simple thing of life is Mark Wood bowls at somewhere between 145 and 150 kilometers an hour. If you can hit him for a straight 6, even if he bowls in the slot, you've got something going for you, especially if that's the first ball you're facing.
Yeah.
And that really changed the match in many, many ways. So I think he batted really well. But also, I'll give you credit, look at what Short did up front. I think Short up front did it. Many cameos out there in the middle. So Short, Harpreet sort of held one end up. Sikandar Raza did okay. And then Shahrukh finished it off. So it's an effort where everyone came to the party to some extent or the other.
Yeah, and we're talking about Sikandar Raza. We spoke about Shahrukh Khan extolling their virtues. But Matthew Short as well, as you mentioned, definitely deserves a lot of praise. He might be lost, because the headlines are made by the other two players. But when they lost a couple of early wickets to Yudhvir Singh, then Matthew Short was the person who steadied the ship.
Not only steadied it, he added some impetus, he added some real aggression and played some fantastic shots. He obviously likes speed on the ball, when it was the pace bowlers. But now he's got out 2 times to spin. Every time they've changed the mode of operation with regards to the bowling, he's got himself out. So it'll be something you have to be conscious of. But in that first 5 or 6 overs, he's definitely one who can take the attack to the opposition. And if Shika comes back, they might be able to strike something up. It might be interesting to see. But I just think going forward, even when the power play, I think they're going to say, listen, come, here's some spinners. Let's see what you can do. Let's see if you can be effective. We know you like the ball bouncing. He plays beautiful pull shots, square of the wicket. But I think they'll go earlier in his innings now to spin.
Yeah, you see a lot of promise and potential in Matthew Short. You spoke about some of his solid batting in the BBL, and now he seems to be continuing his good form.
No, he has absolutely. I think exactly. If he can get past what I call the Richard Levy test, which is that you can play spin a little. Like Richard Levy came from Mumbai 1 year, smashed a century, and then, everyone started giving him spin early. So if he can cross that test, I think he's a competent enough player. He has the shots. I think he can do it. If he can do it, he'll really flourish in this league, because his ability to be able to pick up length that early is really, really good. He hits on both sides of the wicket, picks up length early, fast bowling, he can really play well. If he can be even competent to the spinners, I think you'll see a performance. But again, that's a huge if. And a lot of South African and Australian players find that difficult, not that easy to adjust, because surfaces out here in this part of the world sometimes are very different.
Yeah, and speaking of spinners, there was one spinner that he did not come up against, Ravi Bishnoi. Fantastic in this match yet again. But Paulie, help me understand the tactics there with the bowling, because Bishnoi bowled his first over in the 15th over and then went on to bowl the 18th over as well. Do you think he should have come in much earlier as opposed to leaving him for 15, 18 and 20?
Yeah, I was surprised at how long it took him to get him in. Maybe the success of the faster bowlers, they were surprised by how much success they had up front. But he's always seemed like a class player. There was that short boundary, so with 2 right-handers at the crease, maybe they were umming and ahhing. But when he came on, particularly that second last over, that was really impressive under the circumstances to produce an over like he did. So, when you've bowled 2.3 overs and you've done a pretty good job, you always do wonder as people on the outside, well, how come you didn't give him his full 4? He's the kind of guy who can have an impact, and even if he'd come on earlier. Yeah,
Avesh Khan had 1 over left. Yudhvir, who had bowled superbly well, he had 1 over left. Should the last over have maybe gone to one of those?
Forget about where the last over went, because remember, when his 18th over, when he's bowled, he's gone for just 3 runs. So I think that's what they were looking at when they gave him the last over and saying that, let them try and hit and we'll protect one side. 2 things. One is that he bowled 15th, 18th and 20th. That means 15th, definitely he wasn't bowling at his preferred end. Because if 18th and 20th was the right-hander batsman hitting to the long side, that means obviously 15th he was bowling from the wrong side. But here's my question. You bring on a spinner in the 5th over, left-handers are batting, it's Krishnappa Bogautam, who does basically the same thing. The ball moves away the same way. Your off-spinner is basically, Bishnoi bowls the same ball. He's taking the ball away from the left-hander.
Yeah.
Okay? So is Krishnappa Gautam. If you have a guy, you've retained him, he was one of your picks. Not retained him, you picked him up in the draft. So you obviously rate him really highly. So my point was that I didn't know what they were thinking out there when, I would bowl my best bowler. You always give, why do good batsmen go up front? Because you want to give your best batsman the most opportunity to score. So him not completing his quota and him coming on perhaps a tad too late to change the course of the match is something that I think they need to think about. And this is, a lot of teams do that. They conserve resources to a point where perhaps they can't use them that way.
Yeah. And you said, this is definitely something they'll have to think about. Paulie, is it one of those, had it worked out for them, you would have called it genius, a tactical masterclass? And when it doesn't work out, you sort of, scratch your heads and say that we should have gone with something else. And this, who knows, ended up costing us the match.
If it worked out for them, you'd have still been saying, well,
Yeah.
why didn't he bowl 4 overs?
Yeah.
Because his
Yeah,
three was
exactly.
so good.
That's my point.
yeah,
that
yeah.
Even if he had defended it,
Yeah.
then you would have said, why didn't he bowl another
The fourth
over?
over. Yeah.
Earlier, yeah. So it's a strange one. I think, as I say, I think circumstances of the fact that they picked up those wickets early and they were in control, but even that last over of the power play, to Short, I thought he was going to come to Short because we saw Short in the last game get out to, I'm having a blank here, leg spinner from Afghanistan.
Rashid Khan?
Rashid
Yeah.
Khan. How can I forget his name? He got out to him with a great googly, and I thought, well, that Bishnu bowls the same deliveries.
Yeah.
So get him on in that 5th or 6th over and see if he can strike, but he didn't get him in.
Yeah.
See, I'll tell you one more thing, and it's interesting that what exactly happened. The point was that you had a score of 159, which means that if you look, there were parts of that innings which Punjab played which were totally frustrating. Because, Sikandar Raza was not going, they were taking singles, they were not taking it. So Harpreet Bhatia and Sikandar Raza had this partnership where neither wanted to take a risk. And at some point, then finally Bhatia tried to take a risk and got out. But the innings was meandering. It had no direction at that point. Then again, it went cold after a while. Okay, and yet they managed to get the runs, which tells you that when you have a score of 159, you can make mistakes and recover. And that's exactly what happened. If this total had been 170, 180, the same thing couldn't have happened. And I think that is one big lesson that you have out here. That moment you get to that 150, 160, teams that seem out, 2 early wickets gone, then middle order not batting really well, they can still make it across the line.
Yeah.
Because, and that's something that other teams should think about, saying that, below 180, those days of defending 160, I think with the new bats, with the impact player, the extra batsman you can play, days of defending 160 easily, unless the pitch is a real minefield, are really over.
And speaking of mistakes, I know it didn't end up costing them in the end, but Sam Curran must be kicking himself for having played that shot. He's experienced in the IPL and probably didn't have to play that shot when his stay at the crease was probably the need of the hour.
Yeah, you see, the role he's played over the years, even when he was with Chennai, for example, was a case in point where they would send him in and say, listen, just go and express yourself. And from ball one, he'd almost come in and play like Shahrukh Khan. And, that was the kind of role. Whereas this role that he's in now, as a coach, as a captain, as management, you've actually got to say to him, listen, give yourself some time. Give yourself a few deliveries. We know you can be better than this. We know you can be destructive. But you don't always have to whack it and put that element of risk up early on your innings.
Yeah.
Just try and hit it around the ground. And I think that's the idea that I'd be putting in his head, because he had lots of balls. When he got out, which was a mistimed one onto the boundary, he still had plenty of time to have that impact. And he's good enough to be able to make it up if he just finds his timing and gets going. So it's a different role for him now. He's been bought for a lot of money, but they're kind of looking for him to be a little bit more responsible than what we've seen from him at other franchises.
Yeah, but he'll be glad, and Punjab will be glad that
Huge.
ended up winning this match.
Captain,
at
come
the
in,
end,
take the
captain as well.
responsibility. You saw his reactions there. He was excited. So he'll be really happy, because it would have been a tough ask, all of a sudden. Yeah, go and captain the side, and you've got to do it. You've got to stand up, and he bowled nicely, and he'll be really chuffed that in his first go at captain, he's managed to get
3 wickets as well. Exactly,
Yeah.
A win is a win. Even if they come
100%.
ugly or scrappy, but still, a lot of thinking, a lot of analysis for Punjab to do, because this wasn't a convincing win for them. What do you think they need to tweak going forward? What are some of the areas of concern for them?
One of the things is that immediately he'll come down. You're going to get the player back. You're going to get Shikhar Dhawan back.
Yeah.
You're going to get Liam Livingstone in at some point in time. And that automatically sorts out a lot of your problems. In fact, Liam Livingstone adds to your problems, because I think he comes in for Sikandar Raza, because I think Short gives them a certain amount of power up front, which they don't want to give up on. But think of 2 players of that quality entering a side, and they have beaten Lucknow in their home ground, which was regarded as a fortress.
Exactly.
Lucknow on their home ground with 10 overs of spin. They've come there and beaten Lucknow, and they take a lot from that, saying, we didn't play our best game, and we still managed to take this match out. One other good news for them is the fact that Rabada started getting wickets, because Rabada is a key to them. If they have to do well, Rabada has to bowl well, because Arshdeep has been bowling consistently well. Rabada came in late in the season, obviously, because of his South Africa commitments, but he's finally got going. And I think that's very important for them, because with Rabada there, the bowling they have, Arshdeep, Curran, who bowls really well at the death. You have those three. If Chahar can give a halfway good performance, this is a really good team then coming together.
Yeah,
That's an interesting point that you bring up about Livingston because you saw Sikandar Raza scoring a 50 today. You had Matthew Short playing well as well, another 30-odd. If and when Livingston is fit, who would you end up replacing?
Yeah, it might sound strange because Raza's got a 50, but I would
Yeah.
definitely go for him. I think I'd take him out and put Livingston in. And I think the key is just the points. You know, that it's a bit of a scrappy win. It's not their best performance, but they've got some extra points in the bag now. And as you say, you get Shika back. And then I think it goes down to, from a management side, coaching-wise, you've got to be saying, okay, who's the guy, if we're going to go long distance in this tournament, that's going to have the bigger impact? And if you look at it, you think Short in that first 6 overs will have a bigger impact than Raza would in the first 6. And in the middle, it's got to be Livingston ahead of Raza with regards to how he hits it. So I think as soon as he's ready, I think they will go. People might say, oh, it's harsh, he's got a 50. But also the manner of the 50 wasn't as convincing as if a Livingston gets a 50, for example.
Yeah, and in all probability, he will be back for the next game because the next game that Punjab play will be on the 19th. But with this win, Punjab now slowly but surely, you know, going up the table. They're 4th on the points table. You have Rajasthan, Lucknow at number 2, having lost the second match of the season. And Punjab now sitting pretty in 4th position. So it's been quite the thrilling Super Saturday. But of course, you know, we have 2 games to look forward to on Super Sunday as well. And the first of those 2 matches is going to be Mumbai versus Kolkata, match number 22 of the IPL, played in Mumbai. Joy, 2 very unpredictable sides, 2 mercurial sides. Is that the best way to sum up this encounter?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, mercurial sides, 2 sides, very interestingly. If you look at the Mumbai batting order and the Kolkata batting order, you turn around and look that Mumbai is the far superior batting order. Yet they're the ones who've struggled till the last match. And the performance, their key performer has been Tilak Verma, who is hardly supposed to be the superstar in a lineup that has Ishan Kishan, Rohit Sharma, Tim David. With all those players there, it's been, you know, Tilak Verma who's really been their standout performer up front. But all that power is there. But Kolkata has, you know, the Rinku Singhs of the world, and Nitish Ranas, not so well known, Venkatesh Iyer, Jagdishan. But they are the ones who have been batting with far more confidence. So it's interesting. There's one team which is just batting on a lot of faith, energy and belief in themselves. Another, on paper, much more talented team is not delivering so much. They've just begun to deliver. So now the question is, these guys have lost one. Mumbai have won one. So confidence level, they're rising at this moment, Mumbai. Kolkata would be just a little dented that they couldn't make it last time. So I'll be really interested to see which way it lands.
Absolutely. And your advice for Surya Kumar Yadav, he hasn't didn't fire against Australia in the ODI series, you know, three
First ballers.
First ball ducks, exactly, back to back. And so far, a very underwhelming start to the IPL. So what would you be telling him?
Yeah, I think you've got to just try and simplify things, have a word and say, listen, these things happen. Forget about it, try and put it behind you. Just concentrate on that ball. I mean, even the one he gets out, he walks in, gets a first ball, tries to flick it, gets caught at fine leg. He's shown that he's a class player and he's obviously a confidence player. You know, when you've only made your debut after the age of 30 or whatever it may be, there's an element of you realizing you can do it, taking that confidence in and then running with it. So once he gets that confidence up, also the team gets off to a good start. You know, he can come in and back himself and play with a bit more freedom and not worry about his own performance. But I agree with Joy. They've got so many match winners, Mumbai. A little bit untested, some of the hitters down the bottom when you're looking at your likes of what can Cameron Green actually do. You know, Tim David, he gets often put in as the extra batter. But, you know, Ishan Kishan, Tilak Verma, you've got Surya, you've got Rohit. All those guys on their day, I mean, they win games individually. So
and now Rohit Sharma finding form as well.
Yeah.
After going 24 innings without a 50, scoring a 65 in the last match.
Yeah, they haven't clicked. I mean, they haven't clicked as a batting unit. I think the more concern for me is the bowling. You know, over the years, there's been some really big names. I think Arch has been a big issue for them. You know, they would have wanted a hell of a lot more from him. Charla, I mean, the experience of Charla's come in and now shown that he's the part. But your Meredith, your Berendorf, those kind of guys, you know, they're not really tried and tested for Australia. And if you think of the people that Mumbai have had over the years, I mean, you even go to a Bumrah, those are bankers. These two aren't really bankers.
first season, there was Shaun Pollock. Used to
Average,
did
very
a little bit,
average,
did
very
a little
average.
bit for Mumbai.
I remember.
But I think
I-
you've often had bankers, haven't you? I mean, even like a Munaf Patel, Zahir Khan, those kind of guys were bankers. And Malinga, I mean, how many years did Malinga just bank on his performances? And even the spinners, someone like Harbhajan, all those guys that played. I just don't feel there's enough bankers in that lineup. And it's down to injury. I mean, you replace those with Jofra Archer, you put in Jasprit Bumrah into that attack. It just turns it on its head. It makes it look completely different. But you're relying a bit on Green, what Green can do, a bit of Berendorf, a bit of Meredith. They aren't even the main 3 or 4 for Australia. So I think the experience and having to lift their game to a different stage, that's where I think they've been found wanting. I'm not worried about the batting. I think they will click. There's too many match winners.
Yeah.
They'll come good eventually.
Yeah, and no Jai Richardson, no Jofra Archer, no Jasprit Bumrah. I think that J stands for jinxed, you know, given the
Jinxed.
the mounting injury list that we've been seeing. Coming to Calcutta now, you know, before the start of the tournament, no one gave them a chance. A lot of people said they might end up finishing 11th in a 10-horse race, but they have pleasantly surprised. They've lost a couple, they won 2, but they've certainly showed a lot of valor in all their games, haven't they?
Absolutely. I think they've shown great character, and I think what Chandrakant Pandit is known to be a great coach of domestic cricket. And I think what's interesting is that it's really, other than Gurbaz, a couple of innings from Gurbaz, it's really the domestic guys who've done it for them. You know, Venkatesh Iyer, Nitish Rana, Rinku Singh with that amazing finish. So that's fantastic news for them. What's not so good news is the fact that their bowling is not clicking, and their bowling was their strength. You know, they're spinners. So Suyash Sharma, they were very good in the first match that Suyash Sharma played, he was very good. But there, if Varun Chakravarti in the last couple of matches is a little off the boil, Sunil Narine is a bit off the boil. So that's a bit of a worry. Lockie Ferguson is not looking the bowler he was again. Again, Lockie Ferguson could look at the Mankhede track and think, finally, I've got something that really suits me. Sunil Narine has always bowled well here. Varun Chakravarti also, if he gets a bit of bounce, all this may work in their benefit. But what was their strong suit bowling has not come to the party, and what was regarded as their weak suit, especially when Shreyas Iyer went out, batting, they've really done well. I mean, if you see they lost their last match, they still got 200 on the board after all the wickets that fell.
Right.
But they gave away 223. And that's what you've got to look at. They gave away 223 runs. So I think what Mumbai will say is that this is an inexperienced bowling attack, or this is a bowling attack. It's not inexperienced, but it's just a little bit off the boil. We need to hit them early. And how well Kolkata's spinners bowl, I think, will be a huge factor in tomorrow's game.
You spoke about Lockie being expensive. Would you perhaps be tempted to bring in someone like Tim Southee, replace him? Yeah.
That's for me. I think there's a bit of a control. Umesh Yadav and Lockie are guys who love to run in and hit the deck and kind of make things happen in that way. I think you want the more experience and control of a Southee. And the other thing I think is Shardul Thakur has to step up. I'm not happy with him bowling 1 over in a match. I think he's better than that. And I think he's going to have a bigger role to play. I don't think we're going to see much bowling from Andre Russell. I think the way he limped off the ground the other day means that that knee or whatever the injury is still playing up, and we probably won't see as much of a contribution from him. So Shardul's going to have to do more. I think, I mean, we've seen him a nice little knock from him, but bowling-wise, I think, and I think the surface at Mumbai will suit more his kind of bowling. So I would go and add to the experience and ask Shardul to step up, because he's also experienced and he needs to do a bit more for me.
And now talking about the batting, we know that the opening combination has been a bit of a conundrum. Ramanullah Gurbaz hasn't quite clicked in the last couple of games. Litin Das, Jason Roy available. Should one of them perhaps replace Ramanullah Gurbaz?
Look, I frankly feel that Ramanullah Gurbaz has played very well within his limitations, but I think clearly he's being found out in terms of how the way they're bowling to him, because they're not giving him length. He'll whack anything in the slot, but anything which is faster coming up here, he tries to loft off the back foot, and he's just probably sometimes doesn't have the power. If you ask me, Jason Roy or Liton Das walk into that place. And because Jagdishan has done well as a batsman as well, I would replace him, and I'd not be, there's no point being emotional or having the recency bias that he had a good 50 and all that. I would replace him and say, Jason Roy in international level is a devastating batsman. Liton Das has been in really, really good form internationally against, he nearly, smashed India in a match, if you remember, memorably during the World Cup. So,
Right.
So these guys their peak is, I think, at a higher level. Their, the positive that you can get out of them is a higher level than Gurbaz. who's a fantastic trier, but I don't think is in their level as an international player. So I would definitely switch. But Kolkata might look at it differently.
Yeah, I think you can't be emotional. You know, you've also got to look and you've got to think it's a long tournament. Who's going to be a guy who might come good and win us games? And I don't think Cricbuzz is that guy. I think Jason Roy or Das have got the potential to be match winners and to be more consistent.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly, remember, we're talking about, again, it's a Livingston versus Raza thing, that somebody can give you this much. And, you know, it's an interesting thing. We were also talking about, you know, international cricket. When you come, again, from a smaller country, the weight of the IPL is also larger on you because you feel the need that if you don't perform. Now, there's some players who've taken that pressure very successfully, okay? Somebody like a Rashid Khan, who's taken it very successfully, taken it on his shoulders and run with it. But not everyone can do that because, you know, it's a very, very different, you know, performing for Zimbabwe or even for Afghanistan, where you have small bases of support in that sense, maybe passionate, is nothing compared to walking in with 60,000 people around you in an IPL match with career earnings or a year's earnings that can potentially change your life's, you know, trajectory in terms of money that you get.
Yeah.
So these are big, big pressures and they're not always easy to deal with. And I don't think we think of them enough. I mean, today, think about a Harpreet Bhatia walking in after 11 years.
Yeah.
And can you imagine the amount of pressure on him? He got 22 of 22 balls. But to release that pressure on your head that after 11 years, I've been fighting away to get a chance again, I've got it.
Yeah.
And he's now in that tantalizing innings where I'm not sure he's done enough to cement this place. But I'm not sure he's done enough to get dropped either, if you know what I mean. So it's fascinating, you know. IPL is so much more about handling pressure than just about talent or ability.
Exactly. And speaking about pressure, I read this article recently about Jason Roy. He wasn't finding himself in the best of headspace, but he got 100 against South Africa in that ODI series, after which he said he started feeling much better about himself, his confidence, his headspace. We talked about lots of players, but if you had to pick one player from each team to watch out for in this contest, whom would you pick and why? Paulie?
Okay, I'm going to go whoever they decide to open with, whether it is Roy or Das.
Roy Das.
Yeah, because I think they've got the potential to really start cement, you know, start putting their stamp of performance onto the team's performance. And so eventually, if they do make that decision, and I think we should send an email that they should, I want to see how they go, because I think they would be a better option.
And Kolkata fans are certainly happy. You said Roy or Das, you know, quintessential Kolkata. One player to watch out for from Mumbai.
From Mumbai, I'm actually going to go Rohit Sharma. Again, I think he's got a little score under his belt. He goes back to Mumbai. He loves batting there. And I think the relatively inexperience of some of the bowlers, or some of the bowlers he can put under pressure, I think it could be his day again.
Beautiful. Joy?
Ishan Kishan for me, I think he's not got going as yet. It's important for them that he gets going. He's a big player for them. And if he gets going, he can be devastating against spinners. So they will be really hoping that he can go well.
And Kolkata?
Interesting. I feel Nitish Rana, the way he's playing this year, is the key, because I think he in the middle order gives them something. He fancies his chances. He also likes this pitch. He's actually bowled well in the Wankhede as well. So I think he, as a captain, and with Chandrakant Pandit and he, I think they've got something going together. I think he's a very, very key player for tomorrow.
Fantastic. So we certainly have a cracker on the cards, given the fact that, you know, these are two mercurial sides, two unpredictable sides. But we have a second matchup as well, a repeat of last year's final. This is Gujarat taking on Rajasthan, match number 23, taking place in Ahmedabad. Joy, we were speaking briefly and you mentioned that both of these teams so far this season, Gujarat as well as Rajasthan, seem like a cut above the rest.
They do. And, you know, I was talking before the season, we were talking about previews, now talking about the sophomore course, how difficult it will be to, you know, perform again. And I'm so glad that Gujarat has proven me totally wrong. I mean, they've just come on as if it was, you know, business as usual, as if there's no 1 year gap between the last team, and they've just come in and started playing. See, I think Shubman Gill has upped himself as a player. He's taken another 20%. Remember, he's got 3 international hundreds in all 3 formats, which very few batsmen have got. And Riddhiman Shah is doing his job. David Miller has been absolutely fantastic. And a couple of, you know, pleasant surprises. I thought Vijay Shankar played 1 knock, in which he was pretty good. Hardik Pandya, still we haven't seen the best of him, and yet they've still won. And of course, Rahul Tewatia does Rahul Tewatia things, finishes in the middle. You never think you need Rahul Tewatia, because you look at the scorecard and you says, you know, he's bowled only a couple of overs, he's batted for about 5 balls, but he's won about 4 matches for teams from positions like that. So he's always in the game, and I think that's his team. this team is so much about bits and pieces and coming together well that, I just love the way they play the cricket.
Absolutely. And I guess you could say something similar about Rajasthan as well. Of course, they are reliant upon their top three. But even when, the top three hasn't fired, they've still somehow found a way to win matches with contributions coming from multiple players.
Yeah, and they've fiddled around a little bit. I mean, Ravi Ashwin's coming a little bit high. You've still got the potential striking ability of Jason Holder, Hetmeyer, Padikkal. They've got most bases covered. So I think, as you say, they've hit the ground running, both these teams. I love their bowling lineup. I think they've got some good options there as well. So, yeah, they look like they're both settled. It should be an absolute cracker of a match. We talk about them being the finalists, and I think it's going to be a real good one to watch tomorrow.
In my book, I think Rajasthan's the best bowling side in the tournament. I mean, you just think about it. If you have Bolt up front, the man who takes wickets up front, okay. Sandeep Sharma is bowling really well for them right now. He's come back and he's a very experienced bowler.
It was a good finish the other night from him, eh?
Then Chahal and Ashwin, okay. And you have Jason Holder who comes in the middle and bowls beautifully. International captain himself, understands conditions well. This is a really, really good.
And Yuzi's top wicket taker, he's got 10 already.
Yeah.
What do you talk about?
Purple cap holder last year. Trent Bolt, by the way, missed the last match against Chennai. They still won. And now him, in all probability, being back is going to be bolstering their bowling attack even further.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that we talked about, Mumbai. He was one of them as well. He used to deliver up front in that first 6 overs. Beautiful control, often picked up wickets. And that's what he brings. There's plenty of experience there and an understanding about his game and what's required. So, he'll be a big player again.
Yeah, and he already has like 2 double wicket first over maidens so far this season. Absolutely class apart. Your players to watch out for from Gujarat as well as Rajasthan.
I think Gujarat at some point needs Hardik Pandya to start firing. And I think this is a good match for him because what Hardik did really well last season was rise to the occasion. The bigger the match, the more important the match, the more Hardik came to the party. This is a match for dominance. 2 3-1 teams locking heads against each other early in the tournament. Last year, remember, Gujarat dominated that performance against Rajasthan. In all 3 matches they played against each other, they dominated. So they'd really like to do the same. I'm backing Hardik to come to the party. And look, when it comes to Rajasthan, for me, it's difficult to look beyond a player of the quality of Jos Buttler. I mean, just his quality, his ability to... And really, if he can last out, Shami is a good bowler up front. If he can last out Shami and Alzari Joseph up front, he'll always be very dangerous.
So Hardik Pandya and Jos Buttler, 2 gun players. Paulie?
I'm going to say, I think it's going to be a close encounter. So I think it's going to be a really exciting game. And it's going to get down to the back end of the innings where one of the players is going to have to perform. So I'm going Hetmeyer and Miller. I think those are the
2 finishers.
2 finishers. Who's going to do the job the best? Who's going to finish it off for their team and get them over the line?
Fantastic. We can't end proceedings without joy factor, bringing more joy. So we had, Joy had asked us the question, and Joy, you can do the honours once again.
Which cricketer had scored only 1 one-day international century, but it was not for his test or national team? Who could this be, Paulie?
I know, it was the one time I've actually known the answer straight away.
But speaking of you knowing the answer, I was surprised, absolutely gobsmacked by the fact that you had such a poker face on when you first read the question out.
And then I also threw in the line of like, it could be
Ireland
and then playing for England.
Out there.
An absolute straight face, you gave absolutely nothing away. But
it's amazing. And Paulie's batted very well throughout his career. But that was the one time he got his 130 and it was...
So that series, I had a bit of a niggle with my ankle. And they asked me to come and play. Obviously picked me in the side. I said, well, I can't bowl. So they said, well, would you mind just going as a batter? So I thought, well, there we go. I'll just go and play 3 games as a batter. And I managed to get it. So just playing as a batter is easy. But you don't have the responsibility of having to bowl. It's easy.
I love it. Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, hear that.
So a round of applause for Paulie and a round of applause for the person who gave the answer. And we shall reveal the name. Drumroll, Vivek Agrawal, 13.
He probably took longer than some of the other ones. I think it was the one that they would have had to go research.
Yeah, they'd have to think a little bit more about it. Unless they remember this particular
game, yeah.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. It was Absolutely brilliant having the two of you on this sensational Super Saturday. Absolutely brilliant having you guys as well on Cricbuzz Live. And it's going to be as sensational, as sublime a Sunday tomorrow as well. We start building up at 3 p.m. Before the first match, Mumbai versus Kolkata. And of course, we'll be going live throughout the course of the day, throughout the two double headers. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Jaipur via Kota.
कृपया ध्यान आपको अहमदाबाद
दिल्ली में आपका स्वागत
Lucknow Junction.
ನಿಲ್ದಾಣದ ಕಡೆಗೆ ಹೊರಟಿರುವರೈ
Hyderabad को 50 एक्सप्रेस पॉलोबोसी स्टेशन नेताजी भवन कृपया ध्यान दें